We're talking about the elephants in the room. This is Jermichael Green from over the weekend. Take a listen.
We addressed the elephants in the room. We had that hard conversation that a lot of people don't want to have. We had that conversation. It was much needed. And I think it got people more focused and locked in into what we had to do as a team.
One of the things, there's stuff going on with this team, and it's undeniable. It's undeniable. Where, to what level crap is going on, not quite sure. Maybe less crap now than 3 or 4 days ago. But what do you think are some of the elephants in the room? Well, we'll just go one by one here. And if you want to join in at 888-957-9570, what do you think they talked about, if they talked about elephants in the room?
I got a sense that things were coming to a head from being in Phoenix last week. And the way that game went down, and the Suns not having some rotation players, and the Warriors still just being just so bad defensively and unenergetic. And I think Klay Thompson was at the top of my list. The shot selection for Klay Thompson, I know you talked about it. We've addressed that. I think just the commitment to playing hard and playing defense, I think from even the core champion guys, has been an issue. I think they've been in coast mode, especially in a lot of these games against some of the lesser opponents in games that they've lost, where they want to be able to win it with their offense and not expend a ton of energy setting a tone defensively. So I think one of the things that may have not originally come up, but it's, hey, we got to play harder. We got to play whatever. And I could see somebody saying, well, you guys have got to play harder. Like if a starting player is saying that, or if maybe Steve Kerr is addressing, like, you guys have to, like, we can talk about the young guys, and I think the young guys being completely unable to contribute would be a third one at this point. And like, hey, you can't sulk. You got to be ready to play. You got to play with energy. You can't be pouting. So, those are a couple of them. I think Jordan Poole, would be another one that would be on my list of elephants in the room. Hey, you want to start? Great. You ain't starting right now, so suck it up and play well when you're coming off the bench, that kind of thing.
Let's go back to their defense, because one of the things I have is bench has been, overall defense has been awful. Mm-hmm. That's starters and bench. Did you see the Steve Kerr quote from after last night's game? He was asked about Wiggins. And I just think it's kind of interesting that the first 20 games, whatever it is, what about deep? Well, Steph's been fine. Wiggins has been fine. Draymond's been good. Well, not according to Steve Kerr. This is what he said about Andrew Wiggins last night. I don't think his defense has been as good as it was last year. I think he knows that. I think it goes hand in hand with our team's overall defense. Every single guy has to look in the mirror, coaches too. We have to think about our schemes and possibly make some adjustments because we're giving up too many points. All right? Guess Wiggins hasn't been that good defensively.
Well, yeah, and that stuck out to me last night as well. I also think they need Wiggins. Like, Wiggins can't coast.
Right.
Be at the level that maybe Steph or Klay or Draymond can, because Wiggins is younger. And they're just in a weird spot. Like, they need Wiggins in a lot of ways to kind of carry him on defense or anchor him on defense. Guard the best guard on the other team. And we don't have to worry about him. Right. And that allows a certain level. Right. Because he's only 27. Yeah. Right? He's not 33, 34, 35. And so I think if he kind of senses, you know what, I'm part of this champions core now, I can kind of pick my spots a little bit. I think it sets a bad tone. That is an underlying issue for the Warriors collectively. It's that there are different agendas is probably too strong, because I think that's almost a separate conversation. But I do think you've got Klay, who's trying to, he's got boxes he wants to check. And you've got Steph, who has boxes he wants to check. And they're contingent on Wiggins now having to be this other player that he hasn't been to this point. And then the young players have things they want to do that are maybe incapable of doing. But I think Wiggins is key because he's young prime. Right. And if he plays harder, in a way it allows the others to not have to play as hard. And I think that the veteran players want to not have to play as hard, but still pick their spots and able to win games. So that's, I hope I'm articulating that properly. But
and to take it a step further, I think what the Warriors want out of Wiggins is kind of what they were getting from him last year. I would not call Andrew Wiggins a stopper.
Carry us a little bit defensively.
But we're going to put tonight. Let's just say we're going to put you on, Brandon Ingram. All right, and we're not going to worry about Ingram. He's all your responsibility. But by not having the other 4 guys have to worry about him, it makes their job easier. And he did that a lot in the playoffs last year when he just guarded a guy and just did a nice job on him. Didn't shut him down, but guys didn't have a big game against him either. Filmo Mike. What's going on, Filmo?
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey.
I like when y'all together, man. Y'all get kind of deep with it, sort of like Ratto and Damon. But anyway, I had a question. One of the elephants in the room I had was kind of like the 2 different timelines, the youngsters versus the OGs. And then I had a question for y'all, since y'all like journalists. Maybe I should ask Ratto. When did team meetings become? So I'm 38. I've been hearing, we have a player-only meeting. When was the first team meeting that really made significance that y'all can remember?
Oh, gosh.
I don't want to get off subject, but I just wanted to ask y'all that question.
Thanks, Filmo.
Well, historically, it's a bad sign if you're having team meetings. Because, and I mentioned this with Whitey on Warriors This Week on Saturday, it's kind of, all right, well, they had their team meeting, and that's great. They played better against the Knicks. But typically, if a team is a bad team, it only lasts for a handful of games. And then the old habits come back. And then it's like, well, what do you do now? Do you have to have another meeting? And you find yourself. So I'm optimistic that the Warriors are not going to have to necessarily be one of those teams. But, I mean, how many team meetings did the Cohan era Warriors have?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Well, yeah, my feeling on team meetings is they help in the short term, but I don't know that anything gets solved long term. But who knows? Who knows? I mean, there have been team meetings that we've never found out about that either worked or didn't work. Here's one of mine. You know, I think we haven't even talked about the Draymond Green, Jordan Poole lingering punch. And when we bring up Jordan Poole as an elephant in the room, we don't know how much that overlaps with his issues. In other words, I don't think Jordan Poole's playing right. He's not playing well. Is it safe to say he doesn't want to come off the bench? See, this is what I was telling Evan on the way in here. I was saying, okay, so I know he signed his contract. I know he knows the team he's on. I know he's cognizant of where this franchise is. So I wonder if he's just like, you know what, I'm not going to start for this team for 2 more years. Like, I'm not going to be a starter in this league for 2 or 3 more years. And I wonder if that's like bothering him.
Or he thought maybe that he'd be in the lineup with Klay.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Hey, in the regular season, why can't we play Looney goes to the bench?
He also might be looking at what happened the first 17 games and outstretched arms saying, okay, so I can't, if he's going to start playing like this, I'm never going to start. You know what I mean? Like,
meaning Klay.
Correct. If you're going to let Klay play like this as a starter, okay, I'll never get on the court then as a starter because he's been awful.
I think some of it, rather than getting too deep in the weeds at this point on Jordan Poole's mentality, I think some of it is as simple as he just plays better with better players, and he, at this stage of his career, is not able to carry an inferior group of players.
Correct.
Like, to me, that's because you look at, he gets plugged in for Klay the game against San Antonio, and it was humming.
Right.
He's playing with Steph and Draymond and all of that. They were 18-2 and 29-9 with him as the predominant starter last year with Klay Thompson. So I think that unlocked a level of play in him, which, fair or unfair, it's just real, has not been there when he's been asked to be a more true sixth man. Like him as a sixth man, since Klay Thompson came back, really he hasn't thrived in that role or even been good in that role. So I think that's an underlying issue or an elephant in the room that I think has to be addressed. his mentality on it, I don't really know. How much the Draymond, I don't really know. I'm a little reluctant to go too far on that because we don't know.
Well, he has,
but it ain't working.
Well, he has. To me, it feels like Jordan Poole does. And I know it's easy to say he just got paid $140 million. What are his problems? But he is. This is a new role for him.
Sure.
Now he's come off the bench before, but they're asking him to be. They're asking him to do it all year, obviously, and play a certain way. So that's an adjustment. And I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt there because he's a young player and he helped them win it last year. Let's go to Mario. Mario's in Santa Clarita. I believe there's an amusement park in Santa Clarita, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. What's up, Mario?
Hello?
Hey, what's up, buddy?
How you guys doing?
Good.
Good.
I just think that Warriors, despite everything, they might be good, you know?
Thanks, Mario.
All right.
They might be good.
They might be.
They're 8-9 right now. Let's clean that up with a Leroy. Leroy in Oakland. You got an elephant in the room.
Save us, Leroy.
I do. Hey, Steiny. Hey, JD.
What's up,
hey,
buddy?
Miss you, Goo. Listen, I think the elephant in the room is kind of the major thing that they talked about in the meeting, and that's how selfish everyone has become since the punch. It's like everyone just kind of took their side and went their own separate way and going, I'm going to shot hunt and I'm just going to be about me. And that's not strength in numbers, and that's not the Warriors' way. And I think they talked about that in the meeting, and hopefully they got that squared away, because in the end, they're going to have to become a team. They're going to have to be together, and it's going to have to be strength in numbers as always. And then let me run something by you guys real quick. I was noticing, like, in our losses, like, we're always letting the other teams 6 or 7 man get off. And I think, honing in on defensively, we got to make sure we don't let the other teams, 6 and 7 guy get off. And they've been getting off a lot. And they even got off the other night, but because of Klay's big game and Curry's big game, we were able to overcome that. But keep an eye on that, guys. God bless.
Yeah,
part of it is the Warriors. That's just other teams have better players coming off the bench than the Warriors do.
Well, that's true. Other teams have more athleticism. I think the defense is a big problem. I mean, and I'm trying to think if it's solvable. I think it's solvable in stretches, but I think
it's regular season solvable.
What do you mean?
Because it doesn't have to be as good in the regular season to be solved.
Right. But I wonder, like, I truly believe one of the things that was going on is sometimes you just know you're not playing as hard as you really need to. Like, they to me, they need to get back to, like, all right, let's try to scratch out a win no matter, like, do it all. Because, those championship teams, JD, they were great defensive teams. I mean, they could clamp down.
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
They can't do that anymore.
They could flip a switch. They could go through the motions for a half, come out in the third, we're going to hold you to 18, score 35, night-night.
Yep. Klay could lock his guy up. Iguodala was a good defender. Wiggins, obviously. Draymond. So that gives you 3 really good defenders on the floor, and then you throw Looney in there, another good defender who's a good helper. I don't know that they can become a really good defensive team with their personnel right now.